Look, I don't want to talk. How you try and press the kid and really you was soft.
All right, guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Let's Test Podcast. Today we're going to talk about with sled build season it's here now, honestly. So we're going to just go and do short tracks and talk about them. Both of us have experience a full season on short tracks now. And this whole idea kind of stemmed from an Instagram reel that was posted, that we posted on Cook Bros. It was 165, and it was a video of a reentry versus 146, and then a video of a reentry. And it was kind of funny how many people commented or DM'd and stuff like that about their opinion on it. So we're just going to give our opinions. This is our opinions. If you don't like them, then
don't listen.
Yeah, don't listen. But this is our opinion. So we'll jump right into it. Before we get into it, though, he has experience on and we're calling this 146. You know, this is a 146 talk. To us, that's short track.
Yeah.
We're riding the mountains. 146 is a very short track to ride the mountains. We're not riding trails. And last time we did a podcast, some guy commented, 146 is a long track. Yeah, okay, maybe in the Midwest where you're riding trails or something, but out here, 146 is pretty short.
Well, yeah, we even had some clients last year that came to Powderbound that, you know, that's all they have is 146s, and they're mountain 146s that they ride back home there. But, you know, they're planning their whole trip, and they're planning on coming out again this year in the springtime because that's when they feel comfortable with their 146s out here, which I have to agree with them on that. You know, in those type of situations where the snow's a little firmer, you're still getting some powder pockets here and there. That's where those 146s truly shine. And I think on low snow years, like a lot of people had last year, that's where the 146s truly do shine because you can have fun on them. But when you have a deep epic day or, you know, that early January blower pow here in Colorado, I don't think the 146 is the choice, the move, in my opinion.
Yeah. So before we jump fully into it, so he's rode a 850 146 for a full year.
Yep, a full year.
No turbo.
Nope. Actually bone stock. Like
bone
stock can, stock clutching. I ground the weights to where it'd pull, RPM, but I mean, that thing was bone stock.
Yeah. And then I'm right. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see up here this sled that if you guys follow us on Cook Bros, you've seen this all the time. We started that as a 155 boost, tuned by Voke. And then last year we built AJ built a 146 intercooled setup. So we're right around the 290 horsepower, 290 to 300, somewhere in there. And then it's kind of fully built out to the way that I like it. So that's kind of where our opinions are coming from. Before I did the 146, I rode with AJ a little bit the year before, and watching him ride the NA 146, it just didn't seem to have enough traction and power to really get the pop that you wanted. You kind of mentioned that.
Especially like on those deeper days, you couldn't, you'd have to hit stuff with so much run to even get there. You ran out of traction at the top to come out of the snow to do a reentry or a bow tie or something. So, I mean, yes, you still complete the maneuver, but it just augers through the snow. It doesn't really come out and give you a picturesque video, which is fine. Obviously you're just riding and you're doing it for fun, but on those deeper snow days, that was where, for shooting content, it didn't do what we wanted. And I think that's where your build idea kind of came about, was
we need big power.
The issue is getting it out of the snow. How do we solve that? Make more power. So made more power. And does it come out of the snow?
She comes out of the snow. And before we get into it, I'm going to kind of be the devil's advocate of dogging on short tracks right now, just because there are a lot of drawbacks. But I will say I love riding that sled. It is so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a place. There's a place for it. And a lot of people that DM'd on Instagram was there's a place for a 146. There's a place for a longer track. 100%. I couldn't agree more. But luckily, I have access to a 165, which is a sled behind us, and then the 146. So it's kind of a perfect, sometimes I wish I had a 55, but it was pretty perfect for last year at least.
I mean, obviously having 3 snowmobiles would be the ideal situation, right?
Yeah.
But having 2 snowmobiles is a fortunate thing for us in that situation. And I mean, but if you truly had one sled, and like if you are a mountain rider in the West, live out here all winter or live out here all the time, a 146, yeah, it's a fun sled and you're going to have a great time all winter riding it. But there are going to be times throughout the winter that you go, I wish I had a 155
or a 165.
Or a 165. You know, like you just are going to have those moments. Now, like you say, being fortunate to have two sleds, that is my second sled to have is a 146. Like,
so you go 146, 155.
That's exactly, yeah. I think that's the perfect setup, because when you have those low snow years and it's just not, super deep days, the snow's a little firm or whatever, that's when the 146 is just a riot, right?
Yeah,
like
it's a lot of fun.
You can always have fun on that sled, and it makes getting places technical and hard to where you're not just tractoring up there on a 165, which they all have their time and place, but that's where I think it truly shines, is on those harder snow days, less snow days, things like that.
Yeah. And so the negatives, like this title or this video's title, like why short tracks suck, is, especially with this much power that I'm pumping on this 146, a lot of people are like, well, you just need more momentum. Well, it's like we were talking about when we were thinking about filming this podcast, because there was so much interest on the reel. It's like it's really hard to get momentum on this sled, on a build like this, because
it wants to wheelie.
The second that you give her just any onion at all, it starts coming out of the snow straight up, which there's pros to that, but it can be very, very frustrating. And the thing that I want to talk about is, like, I think for your most elite riders, a lot of them still aren't on 146s. They'll have a 146.
Yeah.
But they're mainly in the mountains. They're mainly riding 155s. Or if they're, guys like Brant, they'll ride 165s. But I think that for a 146, you have, especially if it's boosted, you have to be quick. Quick rider that's experienced.
Your feet have to be able to move quick, and your eyes have to be able to move quick with the trees and the terrain and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because like you said, everybody says, oh, you just got to have more speed, have more momentum. That's great. But there's a lot of times you can't have more momentum, or you're already at that max momentum. And I think that's where we found that limit with the sled for you last year, was it's too much to where it wants to come out of the snow all the time.
You can bunny hop this sled.
You can bunny hop it. So it's too much. And you carry so much speed into stuff that you almost blow through it, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't control the speed that you can carry with that sled very well.
Especially in steep and deep stuff. It's eventually you're going to have to stop, whether you're, waiting for a buddy, helping a buddy or whatever. And unless you were pointed straight downhill, I mean, even if you were planed out and you're side hilled with your nose down a little bit, the second that you go to grab throttle on this sled, it just the track just digs.
Yep.
And honestly, everyone's like, yo, what'd you think was going to happen? That was the point of this sled.
That was the plan.
But the problem is basically from Instagram, I've got this idea that everyone thinks that they should be on a 146, and I completely disagree. If you have a 65 and you're a quick rider and your thing isn't trees, it's, being more open stuff, doing re-entries, cornices, parks, stuff like that, yeah, you should have one. But dude, I would not, even for an elite rider, I don't think that I would say that a 146 is a great idea if you don't have anything else.
No, I have to agree. And it's just, I think a lot of people got those 146 turbos last year, and I'm sure they had a great time until the snow really hit. And then they were going, why do I have this thing? I mean, how many sleds did you see listed in the middle of winter, And I mean, yeah, that's just not the time for them to shine, obviously.
Yeah. But the thing is I think that all these guys want to do re-entries, bow ties, and the marketing of the 146 is well, it helps you with that. It does. It does to a certain extent, but it also hurts you a lot, because to get up to the top of the cornice, if it's deep or whatever, it's a lot harder to get there. And my thing is this guy was like, you think I should get a 146? And I looked at his profile, and he was a decent rider, not Caleb Kosturki or Chris Brandt, but you could tell he's rode a lot.
Right,
and I said, if you want to struggle all winter, yeah.
Yep.
Like if your thing is, and it goes back to riding style. That's what in all the DMs, I'm like, dude, depends on your riding style, honestly.
And experience.
Yep. Because and those two things kind of go hand in hand. But if you're going and like hitting open stuff, like that's what I like to do. And like we've talked about, I'm starting to get into like more steep trees and stuff like that. But if you like that open stuff,
yeah,
even in the deep, it's probably fine if it's not too steep.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're like, I like to ride trees, that's what I like to do, dude, just
stay on a 155 or 165.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, I think you hit a point where it's too steep with the 146 to where it just wants to come over the whole time. Like it doesn't, the steeper the terrain, the more that sled just wants to it doesn't want to go, when it's climbing up on the snow to keep moving momentum forward, it's coming up. And with it being so short, it's not like that wheelie bar stopping it and keeping the nose down to where when you're going up in the steep hills, it just wants to just come over because it's already, set up too steep as it is. Yeah. So that's, where I think on the steep stuff where the 146 really doesn't do well. And like you say, for the more mellow terrain and the meadows and stuff like that, absolute riot to ride and a ton of fun.
Yeah.
But no, that's the main terrain that it thrives in. It's not a steep and deep sled.
No. And I think a good example of explaining this to people that haven't bought a 146 that want to, if you look at like hill climb dirt bikers, okay, I think that's a good example.
Yeah.
The guys that do the uphill races and stuff, what do they do?
Extended swing arm.
Bingo.
Yep.
Because if you have that short chassis, especially if you have a lot of power, that thing just wants to come up. There's nothing back there driving it forward. And you get the argument of like, well, 146 to 155, if you set them next to each other, there's really not that much of a difference. You're right to the eye, but when you feel it, it is quite a bit of difference.
The 146, 155, you feel like what you feel is a lot. But yeah, when you're talking this much, it doesn't look like much, but yeah, it's the feel that really gets you.
Yeah.
It's same with the 165 to 155. There's not much difference, but you sure feel it.
Yeah.
You feel like a skyscraper sometimes.
I mean, what do you think on stock versus an intercooled boost setup? Because I feel like with mine, it's obviously like the very extreme on one end. So, I mean, the fun scale is way above a normal 146, but the drawbacks are way, way below a normal 146.
Yep.
And it's like I was thinking, I got a comment from a guy that's like, why don't you buy Fox shocks and lock them out in the back? We tried that.
It didn't work.
We had Fox on it originally. Yeah, literally locked it out. You could still re-entry flat ground in early December. Yep. There was no snow to dig through. It would just pop straight out.
Yep. Well, and we did the same thing on the Ski-Doo Turbo, Marcus's sled. We locked the rear shock out. And I asked him, I was like, so did it help? And he was like, no. Yeah. He goes, honestly, don't even think I felt a difference. And I was like, I can see it. It's just such a short chassis.
But I think you can definitely tell. So this sled behind us, this has Fox shocks. It's a 165, which the 165, this is the first year I've had one.
Yeah.
But dude, for getting in the steep, and it's like I was telling my brother, it's like if you're tired, that is a dream to ride. Yeah. It's like functional, it's
fun, just like I'm just riding.
Yeah, just riding. Like it's Vogue tuned and stuff, so you can still pull all the wheelies you want. But the difference is with a 146 and you get it straight up, you're not propelling forward. This one, you have enough track. And a lot of it, like I've said too, I think it's lug.
Yeah.
With a 3 1/4 lug.
Yeah, you're going 3 1/4 to 2.26.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
That's a big difference.
Sure. So we are kind of comparing like stock 850 to insane build boost 146. Yeah. So for this winter, I'm going to throw a 146 under my 100 LL tune boost. And okay, everybody would be like, well, we'll just do it on a stock boost. Yeah, but the stock boost just doesn't run that good. Like it's just got that bottom end hesitation, and that's why we run the tune and the 100 LL is to clean that up.
Yeah.
So with that being known and said, like that's why we're going to put it on that sled. I think it's going to be a very happy medium, and it's going to be a more rideable sled. Yeah. But I still think it's the same things that's going to happen. Like on yours, is there's days where it's going to be like that's just not the sled. It's a digger, it's a trencher, it's a it's going to be the same same problems, but it might be more rideable on those. You know, it might make more days more rideable on it.
Yeah.
For rideable is not the word, but it's going to be easier to ride than yours, I feel like, because you will be able to go full throttle, where yours it's like half to 3/4 throttles max, you know.
Yeah, and like with this setup, you can be cruising down the trail at 40 or 50 and give her, you know, pin it, and it'll freaking lift the skis on the trail.
Yeah. So
everyone's gonna be like, bro, this guy's an idiot. Like, why would he do that? That is why we built this sled the way we did. Like,
I remember
that's
when
what
we were
wanted.
building it, everybody was like, you are an idiot. Like, you realize this is unrideable. And you're like, yes. But but the reel that just blew up with this 146, 165 is exactly why you built it, is because being a content creator, like, that's what people want to see. There wasn't 146 boost built the year before. So for that year, it was like you were one of the first with one. Yeah. And then it made the content chassis. Yeah, in the Polaris chassis. And it made the content exactly what you wanted. Yeah. And you were able to get crazy content all year on that sled.
I wish I would have got some of the, like, punching it on flat ground, re-entering and stuff like that. I didn't get any videos of that.
Yeah, you just don't even think of videoing in those situations. Yeah. But I mean, it's the places we need to get some content for sure.
Yeah, so. Dude, we'd go riding with some other people, and you know, they're on like 155 boost or whatever, and we'd be sitting in a meadow. It's like, all right, let's go up this hill, and you know, we're done with lunch or whatever. Yeah, and I just pin it, pick it up, put it down, and their eyes would be like, what the heck is that? It's like, that's what happens when you put a ton of power on a tiny track. Yeah. But I don't know, dude. Honest to God, I loved it. But as the summer goes on, I'm like, that was a struggle. I mean, dude, a lot of days it was
physically
like,
struggle.
Yeah, Jesus. I'm like, oh my God. But it was a lot of fun. So the build, we'll do another podcast. Maybe next podcast will be like what we're planning on building this season and what I'm planning on changing on this,
on that sled,
which won't make a lot of sense to people. But
after this podcast, especially.
Yeah.
I got one question for you before we close it out. What do you think, like, the industry should do for the 146s to help with this problem?
Dude,
like,
I think lug.
Okay, see, I think the same thing.
But then
can you imagine?
Would it dig more?
It'd probably dig more, but can you imagine getting that forward momentum out of like a 325 146? Yeah. Like, I think that would be like, oh my, I would love a 325 146 just to see. I rode the 155 325 for a little bit last year.
Do you guys have one of those?
We don't have one, but there was a guy that rode with us that had one, and I hopped on it for like 30 minutes. And it is insane how much more forward momentum that the 325 has over the 28, right? Isn't it that one?
275.
275. Yeah. So it was amazing how much more forward momentum I got out of it with that. And then I think you do that on a 146, and that would solve a lot of these issues. It would be not solve the issues, but I think you would get more forward momentum, which would then in turn help you with a lot of that. Also heavier, it'll load it more, everything. And
yeah, dude, I mean, the problem is, it's like think about this. Okay, you get a 146 and say you're like, I want a 146. Yep. There's two routes to go, in my opinion. You can either make it as functional as you can, and by functional, I mean like it's easier to ride. You can get, you know, in more places, stuff like that, and do the things you need to do that. Like maybe lockout, definitely a lot less power. You could do that, but then in my argument, it's like, well, then why don't you just go 155 if that's what you're looking for? Or you could go to the polar opposite end with, if you're going to get a 150 or 146, and you could just go bonkers and make it like a crazy sled that is very unfunctional. That's what I did. So
and fun to ride anywhere.
Yeah.
But I think that 850 146 stock honestly was a great example of that you could literally take it anywhere. Like, I went everywhere you all did that winter, but it was a struggle to get there, but it was doable. So like, it was a very functional, very get around sled, and I mean, it stayed fairly planted in the climbing and stuff like that. And as long as I could poach a track here and there, like I could go anywhere. Yeah. But that was the thing, is like, they kind of took the fun out of it when you couldn't pop around as easy, you know?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. The 165, like Skeet rode the 165.
Yeah.
And he, you know, he's trying to do the same things where it's like re-entries and stuff. Dude, he pulled good re-entries on a 165.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm a 165 hater, but
yeah.
that's just me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I think you're right. It has a place, and I think there's a lot of people that ride it really well.
Dude, there's a lot of people this is my opinion. It's like there's a lot of people in this industry that ride completely the wrong track, in my opinion. Like there's dudes who they want to be pulling re-entries and bow ties and all that stuff, but they're just not there yet.
Yeah.
And so they're on a 146, Ski-Doo turbo trying to do that, but they're not there yet. Or you have guys that like, the problem is it's like we've talked about. Okay, the industry went longer. They started making 174s, and
Yep.
the long track was the thing to do. And you could get into any riding area that you wanted, and it was easier and all this stuff. It's true. But then social media, like re-entries and bow ties and all that stuff started coming out. And the marketing was, well, it's way easier to do on a short track. Well, it is in a way.
Yeah, it comes around easier.
But it sacrifices everything else.
Yep. And if you don't have the functional skills and the base, I'm going to call it the base, you have to build a riding base to get to those skills, or to get to that point with your skills. So if you haven't built that base to get to the re-entry bow tie level, then all the 146 does is make you struggle more through your base.
Yeah.
And then that's when you end up getting trapped, mouse trapped.
And you see these guys on social media, Kosterky, and I think Chris Brandt does a really good job of, he always says this, is like, when people ask what track length should I ride, how would someone that doesn't know you answer that? That's like completely ridiculous. It's like, what vehicle should I buy?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you looking to take it to a track and race it? Well, then you probably shouldn't buy a diesel truck. Or are you looking to pull with it? Yep. Maybe a diesel truck. Like, it's completely different.
What do you enjoy doing?
Yeah.
What does your riding crew do? There's so many. What's your terrain like? Are you low elevation, high elevation? There's so much involved. What's your snow conditions?
Yeah. Elevation. All that.
Yeah. Because obviously your 146 down in Brandt's terrain would be you wouldn't even be able to make it to anywhere that they go.
Couldn't even get out of the lot.
Yeah. So, it's just, and that's in Colorado, we're in the same state. So there's so many factors in it for sure. So many factors.
But that's kind of our BSing on why short tracks suck. They suck for certain things, but they are a lot of fun. So
yeah, I think if you've got the option to have multiple sleds, it's great to have in the fleet. If it's my only sled, I don't know.
No, definitely not a 146 for me.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Yeah,
but it's like before last year, I hadn't rode one.
Yeah.
Well, I think I swung a leg over yours.
Yeah, a little bit that one day.
And you were like, I think if you had more power, you could do the stuff you're wanting to do. And I am in love with the 146. Don't get me wrong, but dude, it's harder to ride in the steep and deep, especially with this much power, than I honestly thought.
Yeah.
You cannot keep the front end down.
It's impossible.
It's like you can stand all the way up on the board. You can work your brake. It doesn't matter. It's so much power. It just an instantaneous moment that it just wants to dig.
Yep.
But
yeah,
it does make wheelies fun.
It makes wheelies fun. It makes riding fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a roller coaster, dude.
You can wheelie downhill.
It's so cool.
And you don't even have to go very fast. Yeah. You can just pop and it'll stand.
Get it up at 12 o'clock and work it. It is a blast.
Dude, the funniest thing, I knew this is a different sled than I had ever seen when you got on it that first time we went out.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you pulled a wheelie for like 10 minutes and then you did like a circle? Like Yeah.
And it was just in a 10-foot circle, just it was dancing right there. That was
for 30 seconds. And
freaking
then
cool.
You let off and that thing is just pumping heat and you're like, wow, this thing's a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, and that's, it does have the smile factor. Can't deny it. It has 100% smile factor.
Yeah,
for sure.
I just think a lot of people should quit worrying about going to the short track route and be happier on a 165.
Yeah.
straight up, there's so many people that would just enjoy riding more, and maybe you're like falling out of passion with it because it's a struggle every time you go out. I think that 165 is underrated for a lot of people that think they need to be on short tracks.
Yeah. Well, that day that we went riding, me, you, and Marcus, and we were on that one far hill, you know, and you just went all the way to the top and just ripped a gnarly bow tie right there, and it was just like, that's 165.
That's
stuff.
165,
and you know, you have the skill and the base to do that stuff. So being able to just do it at the top of the hill was like, you know, here Marcus and I are down here like midpoint of the hill with the 155s, and it's like, yep, that's 165 right there, you know.
And the fun part about it too, though, is like for me, specifically to me, and some of you probably, the camera drone lenses that we carry, they're heavy.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like you're adding they're heavy, dude. Like
You got
that
a lot of
case,
weight back there.
Yeah, when everything's in it, it is stupid heavy.
Yeah.
And so there again, it just makes that 165. Like if I was going to go out and someone's like, hey, I want you to film me today, I would take the 165.
Well, yeah, because you can just get
easier.
around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just
It's not a struggle to get there to get the shots. And
But if they're like, oh, we want to go like do bow ties and we want to film you, then I'm taking the 46.
yeah, no questions.
Yeah.
For sure. So
Well,
cool. I think that kind of gives us a pretty good good discussion on the 146, 155, 165. We didn't dip in much into the 155s. We'll have to do that.
if you guys want to hear more track length stuff,
let us know.
yeah, let us know. We've done a couple on them, but it just seems like this time of year it is such a big deal, and you know, for all the right reasons. I mean, people are buying sleds and they're trying to figure out what sled they need to be on, and so it's a very big decision in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a lot of money anymore, so it's a big decision, and it factors what your whole winter's gonna go like.
Yeah.
So
But if you have enough power, you can make anything do whatever you want.
power does a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool.
Cool.
Well, thank you guys. If you like what you're hearing, we're going to get back more regular at this. We said that last time, and you know, we're definitely making an attempt at that, and this is going to be, you know, a weekly thing again here soon. So
Yeah.
we thank you all for the support. If there's anything you want to hear, let us know, drop the comments, message us, whatever. And thank you all for the support. We love you.
Yep. And I think it's good to just BS.
Yeah.
Like our honest thoughts.
Yep. This is us.
This is honest.
If you walked up to us on the street, this is what you would get.
Yeah, this isn't a spec video.
Yep. We're taking this more in the way of the 2-hour conversation before we shoot the podcast of planning it. And they're like, we're just putting the conversation on the podcast now.
Yeah.
So,
All right, guys, follow us on Instagram. We appreciate the support. And until next time, let her eat.
yeah. See ya.